Episode 9. Alchemist Be Thou for the People, I believe the episode is called.
So, what was your score for this episode?
I'd give this episode an 8.
Yeah, I would too.
Here's the thing. This is based on the Yoki storyline from the original manga. I remember reading the manga all the way through to completion a very, very long time ago when I was in middle school. I'm not sure how much I'd like it if I were to return to it now. I'm not sure how much I'd like these individual plot lines overall if I were to experience them in isolation. But I think because O3 placed them within the context of Ed's origin story, they feel more important. Because in a way they are. The show repurposed them into being an important chapter in Ed's evolution as the Full Metal Alchemist.
Yeah.
And this episode represents Ed finding... The past few episodes he was struggling to find out how is he going to balance his individuality with working within this very corrupt system. And this episode is his first solution to that.
A good line that represents that is when Lyra asks him,
yeah,
why how could you betray the people you're supposed to serve? And he says, because I never sold my soul to them.
Yeah.
And I fucking love that line.
And if you'll notice he says that after she used her alchemy on him. He blocked it with her arm.
Yeah, and it revealed his
metal hand. That's when he says that. I'm not sure what exactly that means, but I feel like it means something.
Yeah. Well, it's a heart made full metal. He didn't sell his soul, which is kind of similar to a heart, I guess.
Lyra's cute.
I like her design.
I like her design. The thing about O3's anime original character designs is that sometimes they give me what I call Graggle Simpson vibes. Do you know who Graggle Simpson is?
I have no clue what you're talking about right now.
Okay, so it's an internet meme where a bunch of Simpsons fans, I am assuming, made up this, like, deformed yellow Simpsons character and called him Graggle Simpson. They're all inserting him into various episode clips from the actual show, and they're saying, "Oh no, this was an actual character. It's just the guys who made the Simpsons, they just like deleted him later." But this is the truth. And I saw one video where Homer just says something. They're all sitting on the couch, and then Graggle Simpson's just sitting on the floor near him, and he says, "Oh," he has a Rick and Morty Justin Roiland voice, and he says, "Good one, Homer." Ooh-wee. I sometimes get that vibe from some of like Frank Archer and other anime original characters, just how they look kind of like something you'd see in the manga, but they look like lazy recreations of them a lot of the time. But Lyra is one design that I kind of like.
You know, speaking of Lyra, one thing that I've said before in a re-recording of this is that I like how they use Lyra here. I think she feels very human. Like, there are these scenes where she looks genuinely happy receiving praise from other people.
Yeah.
And I think that's a nice little characteristic they gave her.
Yeah.
But also, when she changes later on into the main villain of the series, which is Dante, when she makes that shift later, you can really sense the difference between those two positions she was in.
Just in the way she behaves. It doesn't point it out. Even before the show officially reveals that she's possessed by Dante, the way she speaks and the way she looks and her facial expressions, you can sense that something is different about her, and I like that.
The type of atmosphere she creates is just completely different between these two parts where you see her.
Yeah, but that's in a future episode. To expand on what you said about this episode and how it uses Lyra, I feel like this anime's O3's version of this storyline, it makes a bit more dramatic sense, not just logical sense, but dramatic sense that these people would hate state alchemists. Because Lyra is right there. She's not a state alchemist, but she's an alchemist who's shilled for the government. And that's basically what a state alchemist is. And she's constantly there on the front lines with Yoki, just terrorizing them and breaking stuff. And whenever some poor miner is going down the hall with his textbook, she's always the first to call him a nerd and just dump him on the floor.
Fucking shove him in a locker. Never to see the light of day.
Give him wedgies, give him wet willies, give him noogies, give him all the rest. You want to talk about that opening scene with Winry?
I love that opening scene. It starts off as just a comedic little thing that she's doing in an over-the-top anime gag.
Yeah.
But then when she talks to this video is sponsored by nobody. When she talks to Ed and he gives these brief, very dead responses to her, it recontextualizes a lot of what she's doing as her trying to distract him from the tragedy that happened in a lot of previous episodes.
Yeah.
And I really like that.
If you'll notice, that whole scene, it was like a constant intercutting between close-up shots between the two of them. It was very elegantly done.
Yeah.
She's smiling at him. It cuts to him. He's smiling at her. And then it cuts back to her. She has this bothered smile on her face. It cuts back to him. And then he's looking distantly off away.
Distracted.
And it just keeps intercutting between the two of them and telling this whole story through their expressions.
Yeah.
And I like that. That's what I like about this director. He does have showy moments in this show alone. But by default, he seems to focus more on tracking these characters' emotions, which is what a good drama does.
A bit of an extension from that opening scene. There was a shot that I really liked while Ed was being briefed on his upcoming mission to inspect the gold mines. Al and Winry were waiting outside.
Yeah.
And then there was just a shot of Winry looking sad.
Yeah, it didn't need to be there.
Yeah.
You hear Mustang briefing Ed while that shot is playing out.
Yeah.
If you took that shot of Winry, it would have been completely comprehensible by itself.
Yeah.
So that's something that they didn't have to add, but that they added.
It's just, again, another killing two birds with one stone. They're telling you the setting of this episode, and then they're giving you the emotional undertones of what this side character also feels, and how we also feel when we see Ed diving deeper and deeper into this military thing.
How many seconds was it? 5 or 6 seconds?
Yeah.
That one moment in that scene becomes not just an exposition scene, it becomes about the growing distance between Ed and Winry because he's joining the military.
Yeah.
It's amazing how you can drastically change the meaning of something just by adding a small change like that.
Yeah.
And O3 is great at that.
Yeah.
Especially when it's adapting scenes straight from the manga. I don't know if you noticed this, but back to the shop scene, when the military comes in and they say, "Hey, Mustang wants you, bro," there's this overhead shot of them looking straight down at them.
Yeah.
And I've noticed that whenever there's a scene with the military intruding in on something in this episode, they always do that top-down shot.
Yeah.
It feels more objective and more like we're witnessing this scene play out like gods.
Yeah, it contributes to that sense of this is very
Mechanical?
mechanical, very cold and distant. Speaking of this show's shot composition and how it places certain characters in certain ways, I love how the train looks when they're sitting on the train arriving at the gold mines.
Yeah.
Right? Because at first, it serves two purposes again. It's so empty.
Yeah.
And
they're the only ones on there because of their military privileges.
And it foreshadows what kind of place they're going to. Because it's going to be essentially this place that nobody visits ever.
Yeah.
Because of these terrible taxes that they have. But also, when it shifts to this shot of a side shot of them next to the window, and then there's this other entire section just completely empty.
A seat in the foreground that's empty, and then you see Ed and Al in the background on their seats.
And then that shot is there while they're talking about how they're the only things they have, selling that sense of loneliness that they feel, and how they're the only people that really understand each other and who can help each other.
I also like the little flashback scene that they had on the train.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's not directly related to what Al said.
Yeah.
He said, "Ed, no, I'm tagging along with you. I'm going to go with you. Remember, that's what you said. All we have is each other."
Yeah.
And then it goes back to the Winry flashback scene, and Ed doesn't even say that line in the flashback. It's just Ed and Al saying goodbye to Winry and telling her, "We're not going back to Risen Bowl anymore." And she looks sad. And then Ed never says a line in there.
But it also has the same kind of meaning.
Yeah.
That they say. And when that flashback first started, like I saw the flash, I was, oh God, no. They're really doing this?
Yeah.
They're really fucking... they're going to be so lazy and they're just going to make Ed say the line and then flashback again. And I'm like, this is so dumb. But then they did that and I was like, oh, okay. That flashback actually kind of had a purpose for being there.
Yeah, exactly. I appreciate O3 for just not doing the stupid standard anime bullshit all the time. It does it some of the time. I mean, 52 episodes, it's going to creep in inevitably.
Yeah.
But there's a sense that people with souls are making the show. And they're not going to work on it on autopilot.
Yeah.
Which I appreciate.
I just really appreciate the fact that they're not wasting our fucking time with these shots, with these pointless fucking flashbacks, you know?
Yeah. So when they first get to Usewell and they're just looking around at this desolate town.
Yeah.
There's some good joke telling here.
Yeah.
Again, the town looks like a piece of dump. Like a piece of dump, trash, banana peel, whatever.
It looks like my room.
yeah. This desolate place where nothing good can ever happen. You're right. You're right on the money. It does look like that. So it looks like a dumpster.
Yeah.
And there's just wind on like... And then you just see a wooden beam and it just bonks Ed on the head. I like the timing of that.
Yeah, I love the visual gags in this episode.
And it's not always doing the accompanying like anime thing when it's telling some of these jokes. There's this one joke in this episode where Yoki visits the inn, and the inn owner's son, Kyle, I think his name is, he throws
a wet rag.
A wet rag at Yoki's face. It just shows it and like wrapping around his face very abruptly and
slowly falling off.
And on the soundtrack, it's a more tense, dramatic theme.
Yeah.
But because of that, hits a lot harder without the show interrupting anything, cutting to another art style or anything like that. I like that joke.
Yeah, I think that's mainly that thing that you mentioned about the show cutting to different art styles and putting in these cartoony sound effects. I think that's one of the problems that I have with a lot of modern anime and tonal shifts that they do. Tonal shifts aren't inherently a bad thing.
A lot of people criticizing Brotherhood for tone shifts. They seem to be forgetting that O3 also had a reputation for tone shifts. But the difference is that while when people note that about Brotherhood, they seem to do it primarily in a negative way.
Yeah.
But when they did that for O3 back in the day, that's one of the things I think it was praised for, is its ability to juggle between those two very extreme, from extreme darkness to extreme wackiness smoothly. And I think the reason it's able to do that is that it doesn't overdo the wacky art style changes and the wacky sound effects. It does do them, but it doesn't go too far. And a lot of the time, it doesn't even do them at all. Maybe one character's face turns into a goofy thing, but the rest of their body still has the same level of realistic weight in the scene. It's continuing the scene, but the joke is playing out.
It doesn't feel out of place, like it's happening in a totally different world.
Yeah, exactly. Right? It's all taking place in the same reality.
Which is why it feels a lot more like these humans are experiencing different emotions rather than this writer is putting in a bunch of different emotions into this scene.
Yeah. I like the scene after they find out that he's a state alchemist and they throw him out. And I like the way it's lit, the way he's sitting outside in the moonlight.
Yeah.
And the rest of the inn, you can see the lighted windows. And they're all having a great time. But he's just lonely, just sitting on the porch, just looking at the moon. He doesn't have any food. He's hungry.
Yeah.
I like that. And I like this line he says when he brings out that tool that Winry bought him at the beginning of the episode. Yeah. He says, oh, Winry, I wish you'd care for my human parts as well as my metal ones every once in a while. And then Al comes in and she does care. It's just a nice little tender moment. I like these quiet, tender moments in O3.
I think another thing this episode does really well is that it shows Ed's reliance on the fundamental law of equivalent exchange. He keeps mentioning it, and it almost sounds like he's referencing some sort of text or something. And it shows that this law has been ingrained into his mind over and over again. Towards the end of the show, they reveal that that law is a bit more flawed than they really understood.
It's not the law itself that's flawed. I don't think it's the show's conclusion. I think it's their understanding of it that's flawed. I like how Ed takes what in the real world would be a straightforward scientific principle. In the context of O3, he seems to take it as almost a philosophy, almost as a religious ideal.
Yeah.
Which is very interesting and how that contrasts with his atheism.
This episode, I think, is a good example of how clever Ed can be as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, not just memorizing chemical equations and the periodic table of elements, but generally speaking, he has a good head on his shoulders and he can think in these different scenarios and come up with actually clever solutions to them.
Yeah.
While morally dubious, this solution that Ed comes up with is very Ed.
Yeah.
Right? And it feels like a crucial part of his character, that more mischievous side to him, as well as the heart that he has that wants to do good for people.
He's a very clever, conniving, such a sneaky little piece of crap.
What a fucking rat.
He's a rat.
Dude, he sleeps with his shoes on. Who does that?
There's this shot I liked when Ed is dining with Yoki, and Lyra is explaining to Ed, oh man, I want to be just like you. And Ed says, just like me? And she says, yeah, I want to freaking suck the military's dick 24/7. It's freaking awesome. And there's this nice close-up reaction shot of Ed. You can tell he's slightly disturbed, and the way he reacts and looks at the details of Yoki's life and the luxury that he's living in. I like him quietly noticing these things and piecing things together.
I really like that shot, but at first I didn't know what it meant until we got to the end of the episode, which was, of course, oh, well, I don't sell my soul to this corrupt piece of crap. But she was trying to. And that lingering shot is him being...
Maybe you're not a good person. And if you'll notice, when Lyra and Yoki came into the inn, there was also that same overhead shot of the military there. And also for the briefing scene with Ed and Mustang early on in the episode. I just wanted to point that out. It's nice. It's pretty cool.
There was this scene that capped off the episode where Yoki and Lyra came back to mess with the people again, and then once they found out that the guys had the deed, the miners just straight up fucking raped Yoki. And of course the camera panned up because you can't show that on TV, but
yeah, some expert bit of symbolism there. They say, we're going to do to you physically what you've been doing to us financially for all these years. And what has Yoki been doing to them?
Screwing them.
Yeah, he's been screwing them. So, logically, in the canon of the 03 dub...
it does make sense for them to have actually done that.
Yeah. That cut from the past to the present, after Hawkeye and Mustang read off the conclusion of what Ed did at Usewell.
Yeah.
That cut from the past to the present implies that Ed has just been doing what he did at Usewell.
Yeah.
For all the missions that he's been handed between that part of his life and when 03 begins.
Yeah.
I like how the show is able to imply that by doing that. I guess that's the last thing I wanted to say.
I also think that last cut was just hilarious. I love how Ed, the way that he interacted with the cab driver was really funny.
Episode...
Good job. Episode 10. What's the title? Oh god, we're just falling apart here. What's the title of this episode?
The Phantom Thief, like Persona.
Right, the Phantom Thief. What was your score for this episode?
Okay, I know this episode is really controversial and a lot of people hate it. And I know it's probably going to wreck whatever credibility I have as a nameless voice who just occasionally appears in your videos, mainly just in this series.
Yeah.
And then that's it. But I like this episode. I actually like it a lot. I think it's really fun. I'll give it an 8.
Okay, so my thought process for this is I also like this episode. I think just as a standard comedy episode, standalone, it is very good and it's very effective. And the comedic timing is on point, man. And the way that they reuse certain shots and certain gags is really great.
Yeah.
But I also...
the pace is really good. The pace is really good.
Yeah, the pacing is really good. And also there's some good dramatic beats in this episode as well. But I also wouldn't say it's one of the episodes to watch in this show.
Yeah, well, we love 03 and we think it's a great show. But that's not necessarily... The fact that this isn't one of the greatest works of art ever made isn't necessarily a bad thing.
I don't think that either. It's just... I'm very mixed on this episode. It's not flat out bad, but I also feel kind of like it's a waste of time. So I'll give it a 7.
I think I already said my score.
Yeah.
I think before we go into our reasoning for why we like this episode at all, we should tell the viewers to think for themselves and not be sheep and not listen to the common cliches you hear online about FMA. Oh, episode 4 is bad. I mean, that's true. You know, if you disagree with that, you have no credibility and you suck. Okay, but if you just mindlessly dismiss this episode's entertainment value because Siren, BOOBA, or whatever, give this episode a chance and actually try to engage with it before you dismiss it. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I completely agree, especially the part where Siren's boobs were on... Wait, what?
Okay. So I said, let's try to understand why people hate it.
Yeah.
And then I went on a rant just calling them sheep. That was just a joke. That was just a joke. But I would say try to give this episode a chance in good faith and see why someone would like it. And the reason people seem to hate it, and I realize this is not the most in-depth understanding of why a lot of people hate this episode, but my understanding is it's just because of those few shots with Siren's boobs, the boob jokes. Yeah. And I do understand that. I find fan service in anime to be very cringe. In fact, I'm a lot stricter than most people are about that, just on principle. Yeah. So please understand that I am trying to be as objective as I can when I judge the quality of this episode.
Yeah.
My take on it is that if those are the only criticisms of this episode, I feel like people are dismissing a lot of really good comedic editing, a lot of good visual humor, a lot of classic setup punchline timing, because there are a lot of really good gags in this episode. Yeah. And also, I feel like out of all the filler adventure-y type episodes, this locale, Akroya, is easily the best realized out of all of them. Hands down. Way more than Xenotime, way more than... I almost said Lior, but that's not a filler town. Yeah.
What was the freaking other Brothers Elric's town?
That's Xenotime. Exactly, you
Xenotime?
forgot. You forgot. Yeah, exactly. There's this one shot in Xenotime where this road in the middle of town splits off into two ways.
Yeah.
And it looks almost exactly like a similar place in Lior. I'm not entirely uncertain that they didn't just reuse that background.
Yeah.
Upon closer examination, I might realize that that's impossible, but it looks very much like that. That's what happened.
I guess to be more fair to people who didn't like this episode, I think you and I also had this opinion before. We thought that its placement in the story was very...
That's a much more legitimate reason.
Yeah. I can understand people getting kind of frustrated with this show if we had the gold mines, which already was kind of comic relief episode and
not really.
But it was definitely
it
more...
had a little bit more than what came before.
Yeah. And then we get this after... And then after this, we also get another two-parter this time, which...
Yeah.
I guess I can't understand why people would feel like this is a waste of time.
Yeah, but if they could have found a way to make it work, I would have much more preferred if they cut out the other brothers storyline than this. Let me put it that way. Because 2 episodes for that storyline?
Yeah. It definitely shouldn't have had 2 episodes.
Yeah, at least this is a self-contained, fun breather before you go back into the drama.
Yeah, this one is a lot more energetic than the other brothers Elric, I think.
Yeah, and here's the thing. I'm saying that as someone who actually appreciates both this episode and the other brothers Elric on my most recent viewing. I can sympathize with people who want to get to the main storyline as quickly as possible and feel like this is a waste of time. On my most recent viewing, because I was of that mindset, I skipped all 3 of these episodes and went straight into Full Metal vs. Flame, and I felt like there was something missing. I almost felt too depressed. I think it's because you have that whole stretch between episode 3 to episode 9, and it's just non-stop heavy drama over and over and over again. And Full Metal vs. Flame is comic relief-ish, but it is also dealing with some more heavy stuff. It's back into the mainstream of the story.
Yeah.
I feel like there's something to be said about having a nice break and just going on different adventures for a little bit.
Yeah.
There was something about that benefited even the pacing a little bit for me. Also, there's just too much crucial information worked into these episodes for you to just jump from episode 9 to episode 13.
Yeah, I would
for it
agree.
to be completely smooth.
Yeah,
I
agree.
You want to go over your notes?
Yeah, I don't have many because I really... Again, I didn't know how to feel about most of this episode.
Yeah.
But the things that I did like and the things that I did note down was the opening scene. It's not very story heavy or character drama related, but I like it because the brothers in this show, they feel like real brothers who...
The poker game that they're playing.
Poker game they play, the way they get on each other's nerves, the way Ed keeps cheating.
Yeah.
And it's fun and instills this real sense of personality in the 2 main characters that we're following. And I think that's a very important thing to have, because it's hard to follow 2 empty fucking shells of a human without a soul. But also in that opening scene, there was a bit of good visual storytelling, like when Ed was holding up the Joker card and he was like, we're gonna go see Mustang.
Pulls up the Joker card right when that happens. There's this shot, it's supposed to represent when he's thinking. He sees Mustang looking back at him very gloatingly. And then it zooms in on Mustang's face, and then there's this fade transition to a bunch of fish balls on sticks. I like that. I also like the rhythm of that scene. The way Ed pulls up cards and cards come into the shot. The way he puts down the cards and reveals the royal flush and everything. Again, the editing in this episode is really tight. It's probably some of the best editing in the show, to be honest. Which is funny because of what kind of episode this is.
Yeah, I do feel like in this episode, O3's director gave more of a shit than in episode 4. Or even like episode with the other brothers Elric. He doesn't feel bored and dead on the inside while making this episode, I feel like
this director, he's a lot better, at least in this show, he's a lot better when he's handling the heavier emotions and the philosophical themes and things in the context of an almost serialized story than he is doing a town-hopping adventure of the week kind of thing. Because when he does the latter, it feels like the location is just a fart. The side characters that the Elrics encounter are just farts. And the premise of the problems of these towns
is the butt
that
releases the farts.
Are the butts that release the farts. Is this the best you could come up with? Even when the episodes themselves are overall pretty good. And the themes and the character stuff going on is pretty good. Which is foreshadowing for way, way, way later in the series.
Other things, I think that there's some really good scenes in this episode showing how sarcastic and disrespectful Ed can be. Especially to authority figures. I don't know. Again, that's a crucial part of his personality, especially in this version, which contributes to a much larger part of his character arc
Yeah.
throughout the show, and you know that's important.
Yeah.
Again, I people might get tired of the Brotherhood comparisons, but I never felt like Ed had this in Brotherhood ever.
There's someone who commented on our last video who didn't entirely agree with my take on Mustang.
Yeah.
But that person said something that I agreed with. It's that what Brotherhood came up with when it came to Mustang and Ed's relationship,
Yeah.
it didn't feel like it was motivated in any particular direction.
Yeah.
I think what that person means is dramatically purposeful. That's the sense I get from Ed's bad attitude in Brotherhood. It feels like there's no like deeper, larger significance to it.
Yeah.
Whereas Ed's bad attitude here is super important.
Yeah.
And
That's the thing, right? Especially, I like how you bring up Mustang and Ed. There's this scene in Brotherhood where after they reveal that Maria Ross is still alive, Ed said something like, I'll admit it this time, the Colonel knew what he was doing. And I say, Ed, you have literally no reason to say this in this version of the story.
Yeah.
And that's what, and I feel like that scene proves that it was semi-intentional, that he was supposed to come off as sarcastic as he was in 03, or very cynical. But he's just not. And I feel like there are a lot of scenes like that that make him feel out of character in that version, because of this absence of characterization early on.
Yeah. The most significance I can get out of Brotherhood Ed's semi-angstiness, it feels like diet angstiness to me, is that scene at the end, at the very end.
Yeah.
And I realized that this whole story was building up to that, but it feels like that one scene in isolation is the only place where it's relevant.
Yeah.
Whereas Ed's angst, its importance is interwoven to the very fabric of this story that we're commenting on.
Yeah.
Brotherhood fans may be right in that, it's not about being a personal story, it's more about the ensemble cast and the world and everything.
Yeah.
But I'm looking at these ensemble cast in Brotherhood, I'm like, I've seen other shows do this way better. And even if I thought this was good, those other examples that I thought were way better, they feel very standard to anime and just to media in general. And so best case scenario, you're replacing something that I feel you have something standard, whereas with 03 you have this very layered, textured central character. 03 is one of the richest portraits of the inner workings of one person's mind I've ever seen. And so you're giving up something special for something that even at its best is very standard.
Yeah, and doesn't really stand out that much.
Yeah. Okay, wow, we went on a really protracted Brotherhood rant. We're not lying that we never get bored of talking about this to a fault. We acknowledge that it's honestly sad. But we've scientifically tested this, and we do not get tired of it.
This is like Godwin's. This is like the law about Hitler, but with Brotherhood instead.
Yeah, Godwin's law. Yeah. With us, it's Brotherhood's law.
Okay, so back to the episode. Something else I want to mention is that Al is a freaking simp.
But it's really funny. I like how Al. You could read his actions as being a simp, but it is also very in character for him to just want to see the best in people.
To give people the benefit of the doubt.
And he's just being innocent. But I love how Ed is just constantly saying, Al, you're being a freaking simp. Your taste in women is awful. What are you doing? You freaking idiot. You moron.
That's the thing, right? There's so many scenes in this episode that just contribute to that brother factor.
Yeah.
They do feel like real brothers, and they're fighting all the time. And I love it. It's great.
Yeah, I guess I could just list off some gags that I liked from this episode, and also list off some things that I picked up on this viewing that I did not pick up on previous viewings.
Yeah.
I love the inspector character.
Yeah, I love him.
He feels like a parody of, we recently watched Castle of Cagliostro, Lupin the Third, and he feels like a parody of that character. Yeah. He's dressed exactly the same, and he has the same haircut, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
But he's just a bumbling buffoon in this one, whereas the inspector character in Castle of Cagliostro was actually competent.
Yeah. I love the way that his personality shifts after he finds out who Ed is.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's another gag. He goes up to Ed. He's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry about interrogating you. By the way, I was on the phone with Mustang. He was really nice, right?" And while he's saying this, the footage is a flashback to him talking to Mustang.
He's kind of cowering.
Like it's the perfect Japanese salaryman being scolded by his boss face. It's great. I like the bit when Ed has to get a shot. And he runs away. Yeah. Which is such a perfect detail. It's a surprise that Ed would be scared of this, but then when you think about it, he would be afraid of getting a shot. It feels so consistent with the vibe of his character. And then Al has to physically wrestle him back to get that shot. And there's a good editing bit here too, when it's a sideways shot of Ed running out of the doctor's office and then Al pulling him back in. Yeah. And it lingers on that, and you hear the sound of them struggling. Yeah. And it just cuts to Clara's face, and then it cuts to her pulling the shot out up into frame. and then he already got the shot. And I feel like that was a good way of showing that Claire is really good with her hands. Let me just put it that way.
Needles.
Yeah.
Sucking people's blood.
Yeah. I like the shot of the table with all the food on it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, and there's a really good short gag in this one. I'm not talking about the one that you like. I'm talking about the one when the inspector is interrogating Ed. You see the shot from behind his back, one solitary light source on them. He calls Ed short while he's eating. Ed, in the same shot, he's just like, who are you calling a short piece of crap?
Yeah.
And then it doesn't cut to anything. It didn't cut to anything when he said that.
Yeah.
It just lingers on that. And then he just sits back down and just goes back to eating. Again, the slightly more creative staging of how these short gags are done.
Yeah.
I appreciate.
I also think something to mention briefly is that the dialogue, the writing is freaking incredible in this episode, especially for humor. The banter between characters is so endearing in this episode. There's this one line during the scene where Al is holding Ed to get a shot. Ed says, "Oh, you're evil, Al, I hate you." And then Al says, "You don't mean that."
It sounds like he's about to cry. Yeah, I love that. I love the demolition scenes. Yeah. It's always the same long shots of the city far off, and you see this explosion in
a different area each time.
And then the same composition of these different demolition sites with Ed and Al standing in front of it, and then Ed yelling at Al. I love how after the first time Ed helps Siren, it doesn't repeat. It doesn't show him trying to help her again, right? It just shows Al going like, "Oh, she's about to do this," and it cuts to the long shot of the immediately to the consequences of that.
I think each time, the time between them finding out what the thing is and then the explosion it gets shorter each time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, which is efficient storytelling.
Yeah. At the end, when Ed decides to catch Siren, he says, "You know what? She might be doing all this fucking good for these people, but I don't give a fuck. Okay? She wronged me.
Yeah.
The Full Metal Alchemist, and I'm gonna get my revenge for that at least."
Yeah.
And I really like that.
This whole episode is Ed thinking he has the truth. Rug pulled out from under him. He thinks he has a broader truth that explains why his previous understanding was wrong. Rug pulled out from under him. And then he finds out the much more ambiguous, the broadest scale of truth. And his reaction to that, even though he can recognize that it may be justified, is to lash out. Well, is to just do this thing because he feels like he has to. Which is what he does in the final episode. This whole episode is like
it's just the final episode, but with boobs.
Big anime titties.
For the people who do criticize this episode because of that and rate it lowly because of that, and I'm sure that there are people with much more comprehensive reasons to hate this episode out there. But for people who criticize it for the boob thing, I'd suggest maybe looking at the bigger picture.
It's not as common as people would make it out to be.
Okay, just
boing boing.
Yeah. The Other Brothers Elric Part 1.
I don't know what to even say about this episode.
Take 2. Episode 11. The Other Brothers Elric Part 1.
Yeah.
So, Liam, want to go over the notes for this episode? Want to go over what you picked up, analyzed in this episode?
Yeah. I got a lot of notes. A lot of notes for you, if you can hear that. Okay, so hey guys, did you know that in terms of male human and female Pokemon breeding, Vaporeon is the most compatible Pokemon for humans?
Oh, wow.
Not only are they in the field egg group, which is mostly comprised of mammals, Vaporeon are an average of 3'3" tall and 63.9 pounds. This means they're large enough to be able to handle human dicks.
What the? Is that the whole copy pasta that you read there?
No, it's not the whole thing.
Okay, read the rest. I'm not going to do this bit anymore. I just want to listen to the rest of it. Just read it.
Okay. And with their impressive base stats for HP...
Read it.
Yeah.
No, read the rest, please.
Oh, God. Okay. And with their impressive base stats for HP and access to acid armor, you can be rough with one due to their mostly water-based biology. I can't.
Okay, alright, fine.
Oh my...
Take 3. the serious take this time. With episodes 9 and 10, it was a lot easier for us to write notes because that's what we've been doing since episode 5.
Yeah.
But as soon as this one started, we both immediately got the sense that like we just don't want to write notes for this one.
Yeah, I don't know, something about just how boring the setting is in this episode. It made me just not care at all.
I was looking at these houses and I was like, man, these are the most boring houses I've ever seen in my life, which is a problem with 03's anime original locales. At least when it comes to these one-off adventure stories.
Yeah.
The only exception being the Phantom Thief, which had like one of the most colorful settings in all of 03, even the main non-filler stuff included.
You know, originally I had a lot more sympathy towards this story.
Yeah.
Because there is a lot of potentially good character drama that they could draw out from this. But seeing this first episode, man, it just... I just don't care anymore.
I don't care either. It's okay enough. There's just not a lot to dig into.
The only thing that made me feel anything was just when Ed saved the girl and then they asked for his name and then they threw him out because that seems like a really big overreaction.
Yeah, like the way these townspeople are reacting to treating these brothers. It's like, so what? They're like you said this. Like, so what? They're pretending to be these guys if they're lying, right?
Like
they saved your daughter from dying. They saved a little girl from dying.
It doesn't matter what the fuck my name is. I saved one of you.
And then these guys are freaking swinging brooms at them when they want to get medicine from the pharmacy.
Man, these guys told one lie. They must be worse than fucking Hitler.
Presumably, they're also kicking them out of buying food for themselves and staying at other places. What's going on here?
This episode is dumb and boring. 6 out of 10.
Maybe a 7 for me because, okay, outside of the context of trying to find out the deeper stuff, it's watchable, you know?
It's watchable, I guess. Yo, you know what that green bird represents?
Oh yeah, there's a shot when Al's talking to Fletcher. I realize his name is not Russell, it's Fletcher.
Yeah.
So that's a mistake I made. Also, whatever. Yeah. And then Ed is looking up at this...
Or Al is looking... No, you're confusing the main brothers now.
Al is looking up and he sees a bird hanging out on this metal structure. I forget what it was exactly.
Yeah.
And it's a green bird. And it's a green bird that I think you see throughout 03 at different points.
Yeah, but only this episode do you understand the true meaning behind that symbolic imagery. See, the beauty behind that green bird is that it's green and it can poop. Just like Russell Tringham, or Fletcher.
Because Fletcher has a green cap.
Yeah, he has a green cap.
Got him.
Yeah, okay, that's it. We don't have anything else to say about this episode.
Wow, I really don't have anything else to say. At least Phantom Thief was entertaining. I could write down jokes I liked and at least attempts to visually sell it in a fun way.
Yeah.
There's nothing here. There's nothing to talk about except for broad themes that are that we can just as easily talk about when we're discussing the next episode.
Yeah.
This episode didn't need to exist.
Episode 4 also had some broad theming going on, but it's boring. So it's like, who cares? You know what this episode's problem is? It's the opposite of what I discussed with when you brought up the 2 birds with 1 stone thing.
Yeah.
This is what it feels like when, relative to the rest of the show, there's one thing going on
in each scene.
Even if it did have like one thing going on.
Yeah.
When Mizushima or his team or whatever, when they don't care about direction, they really just do not give a crap because the camera is just like dumped in front of a bunch of places.
I love the sand. There's sand everywhere. They can make like poopy castles.
Remember the line from episode 1? It gives me prequel vibes almost. I hate deserts. It's nothing but sand. It's like great. The Full Metal Alchemist. Sherlock Holmes over here. Do you want to talk about like Ed versus Russell, like the older brother?
Yeah, I got pissed off watching that fight. There's a much bigger problem with it overall, right? Like I don't. The animation is really weird.
Yeah,
and some things lead to, like, there's this one shot in the first fight that they had where Ed kicked him, and then he dodged it, and then he just slid all the way back.
Yeah, and then there's this other thing, and then there's this other moment that I always look at whenever I watch it. I'm like, what's going on here? Ed charges Russell, and then Russell swings him away, like hits him away, and then Ed does this weird flip. I don't know what happens. I think mid fall, like his fall turns 90 degrees to the bookshelf to the side, and he lands to the side on the bookshelf. But then the way he gets up, it's almost like he's getting up from just sitting on the ground.
Yeah.
The animation is super bizarre in that one moment. That fight scene is so frustrating to me because here's the thing about Russell Tringham and Fletcher. They look like the most, oh my gosh, who cares characters in terms of their character designs. And so seeing Russell actually not be easily disposed of in a second by Ed is the stupidest, the most frustrating thing.
When Ed had to retreat, I said bullshit. This is stupid. This is fucking dumb. Ed should have easily killed him.
Either that or honestly Russell and Fletcher should not have even bothered fighting them. They should have had that old lady from the pharmacist just swing her broom at them, kick them out. She's so effective at that, right? Top tier security right there.
There's another part where in the second fight, Russell kicks Ed in the stomach, and then Ed reacts like and then he backflips away. I'm just, what the fuck?
I think that's the same thing I told you about. Like when he backflips away, and then he somehow lands. I think he lands on the bookshelf.
No, that was like part of the first fight, but in the second fight, like he knees him in the stomach, and then Ed goes like and he just backflips away. Like, this isn't Naruto. What are you doing?
Oh my gosh! The only character who I felt like this episode came the closest to doing anything with is, I think his name is Belsior, Balsac, whatever his name is. The guy who's a misfit because he really likes lemons.
Oh, wait. wait.
He loves lemons so much.
Dude, he's...
I like that he gives Ed and Al a place to stay. I mean, I guess I like that.
Yeah.
I like the quieter scenes of Ed and Al just like sitting out in the moonlight. Though there's this one beat when Ed is rubbing his cheek on Al's thigh, and I'm like, come on, this is giving me incest vibes.
So anyways, what did you give this one?
I gave it a 7. But it's a very low 7.
I'll give it a 6.
Again, I'm making fun of all these things.
But that's just it. You're just making fun of all these things.
Yeah.
Like, there's no other point to it.
Yeah.
Okay, next episode.
Episode 12, The Other Brothers Elric Part 2. Pratt 2. This one's better. This one's better than the previous one.
It is.
I'd probably give this one a higher 7.
Yeah,
higher 7.
Because I gave it a 6, I'll just give it a 7.
Yeah. There's more good in this episode. I like the Nash Tringham flashback storyline thing. I like the creepy vibes. I like the hints that something really bad is going on at Central. I like how it conveys a sense of Nash Tringham being this broken person.
Yeah.
And also, little moments like how when Belsior or Balsac greets him, that little kind of like that tired smile he gives.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people have probably been in that kind of situation before. It's a very relatable, sad feeling.
Yeah. I don't know what else to say about it though. What else is there? I think this episode had a bit more personality to it than the last one did.
Yeah.
It was just overall a bit more fun. Like, there's that bit where Ed was trying to play up himself,
his bloodthirst.
Yeah, he's trying to play up his bloodthirst
in front of Mugiar.
Yeah, he's trying to say, "I'm gonna fucking kill those little children," and
you made it sound weird. You made it sound weird.
Well, whatever. There's scenes like that, and I like that.
And and he says, "You want to watch?
Yeah, you want to watch.
You want to watch?
You want to dance."
The way you said it though, now that when we repeat that joke, which is funny in the show, it sounds weird. I'm gonna kill these little kids. You want to watch? You want to watch? To Mugiar. Okay, another thing I like I feel like the lighting is a bit more purposeful this time
Yeah.
around. Like the scene with Russell and Fletcher training in the cell,
Yeah.
and Mugyar is.
I'm sorry, I'm not laughing at anything you're saying. I
know.
I just can't get it out of my head.
You wanna watch? You wanna watch me? That sounded like the Green Goblin. Okay.
Sorry.
Okay. When they're in the cell, the lighting from the torches, it fits the mood of that.
Yeah.
Better.
I mean, you know, I did like Ed's talk to them. How he said, "Hey, stop being a little bitch.
Yeah.
Stop
chasing your dad's dreams.
Stop trying to suck your." Never mind. Yeah, like, you know, I think a bit of that is because of his kind of pent up feelings towards Hohenheim, a little.
Yeah.
And-
So yeah, it's funny. Like he is telling them a good thing, but it also reflects unresolved feelings that he has about his father. So, which in the context of his own story, isn't a 100% good thing for him to feel.
Yeah, I do like that they made it feel more organic. Like he actually had a personal reason to say that to them.
Yeah.
Than the cliche, "Oh, I'm the wisest man ever. Suck my dick."
From killing them to getting them to suck his dick. Ed is such a complex character in this anime. He's so complicated. He has so many layers. Truly a great protagonist.
Truly
one for the ages.
Truly a man among boys.
Oh my god. Alright, stop it. Someone's gonna bring up Vic Mignogna or something, and it's gonna be even worse.
Okay.
Okay, stop it. Alright.
You want to talk about the fight that happened in this?
Okay, before we go into that, because
yeah.
I feel like we're gonna be very hard on what this episode doesn't do, right?
Yeah.
I want to talk about one of the things that this, a couple of the things that this episode does do, right? I like it when, I like the tree scene.
Yeah.
When Fletcher's having the trees absorb the red water, and then there's this nice moment. He says, "So thank you, trees. I'm sorry for this," right? And he disintegrates them.
Yeah.
After detoxifying the red water. I like that.
Like a true hippie.
Speaking of hippies, the character Belsior / Ballsack,
Is that?
when we were watching him, I looked at his hairstyle. He was talking about some dramatic stuff that I didn't care about, but I was also distracted by his hairstyle. And I think at one point I said out loud, "He looks like a beatnik." I'm like, what is he doing in this rundown, coal mining, dirt poor, poverty-stricken town?
Yeah.
Just talking to Ed and Al, sitting in his chair all solemn, like going like, "Oh man, the good old days when the mines were filled with gold.
Yeah.
The townspeople, they're going for this newfangled science, like freaking write poetry and like seduce housewives or something. Just shut up.
Stop it. This isn't your element.
This is not your element." Okay, all right. So I like the tree scene, but you joked when they blew up the trees and spread this blue powder across the town. You said, "Oh great, they turned the poison gas." What if they made it even more dangerous than it was before?
All right, enough of the good stuff. I want to get into the shit, the absolute shit in this.
The Mugyar. Okay, first, Mugyar as a character is the most Scooby-Doo villain in the entire canon of 03.
Yeah.
03 has this problem when it has throwaway villains, they're so mustache twirling, cartoony, and cardboard cutout. Like, we're gonna torment these Ishballins now. We enjoy them. It's not enough to just have them. Okay, the military's forcing us to do this. We're sorry.
Yeah.
And then they do these horrible things, and then it has the conflict between the horrible things and them being sorry or whatever. No, it has to have them go like, "Oh, a freaking a lone girl in the forest. Come on, guys, or let's go rape her. It's gonna be so fun, dudes."
Something about money.
Let's rape her for money. Come on, best of both worlds. Am I right?
Yeah. Okay. It's funny you say that because I think Mugyar started off as a more sympathetic character because like lust was there, and it felt like she was forcing him to do this,
and then he just turned out to be the old mine prospector, with the dirty plans.
And then at the end, like when he was about to die, it just completely shifts his motives.
He becomes he literally says "mwahaha" as he laughs. Like that's the kind of villain he comes into.
Yeah. I'll never give up this thing for power or something.
when he was protecting the red water fountain. Why would he do that? He already saw all the cave collapsing in on himself. He can't protect. He knows he can't protect it. He has none of this redstone left. The red water in that current form, he can't use it because he's not an alchemist like Ed. So why it's the most. It's like Dr. M from Slide 3, but without the decades of motivation that Dr. M had.
The borderline crazy obsession that he had with this legacy.
Yeah, you know? And Dr. M was already like that whole scene was already kind of a cliche.
Yeah,
but at least it was earned.
Yeah,
but like this is just stupid. The way Mugiar died, a rock literally fell on him and he died.
Yeah, it wasn't enough for a pillar to fall on him. He needed a rock too.
Oh yeah, the pillar. Okay, let's just talk about the Mugiar fight scene. Okay, first off, I told you about this fight scene, and you I think you admitted to me on this viewing that you thought I was exaggerating.
Yeah. Back then, when he described this piece of shit fight to me, I legitimately thought that he was pulling the shit out of his ass.
No, I wasn't exaggerating at all. So it starts the frame that it's when Mugiar it starts with Mugiar pulling out his red water gun.
Yeah.
Red water machine.
His fucking Nerf gun.
his red water Nerf gun. And he shoots it at Ed. And the frame where Ed and Al run and try to dodge it, it's the goofiest thing. You guys should watch this fight. You have to rewatch this fight. It looks so funny. Them just running out of. You have to pause that on that frame.
It's literally like a Scooby-Doo like run.
Yeah, it's like a Scooby-Doo run. It's so stupid.
Oh my god, when they were running around the pillar to get behind it. What?
That didn't even make any sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a shot of a pillar, right?
Yeah.
And Mugiar's behind it. He's shooting it. You see the bullet sparks already on the pillar, but then Ed and Al run from the frame on the other side of the pillar, which means they were between the bullets and the gunfire, and the bullets and the pillar. So they just ran through those bullets, and then they just ran around and just like went.
Why didn't they just go directly behind it?
I don't know. There was nothing in the way.
Yeah,
there was nothing in the way. and then they pushed the pillar onto Mugiar. And on this viewing, when you saw the pillar fall on him, you laughed so hard.
I couldn't keep it in. You were like, it was so stupid. It was so dumb.
But it gets even better. Russell and Nash, they come in and they're like, yeah, we're not gonna follow our father's dream anymore. And it's like, cool. And then Al's like, hey, look. And then it turns out that under the pillar where Mugiar got crushed,
there was a fucking staircase leading.
Yeah, there's like he got crushed above a trap door a secret trap door that leads with stairs leading down into it. He just happened to be on that spot when the pillar fell on him. And then the music goes like and then they chase Mugiar through the cave. And Mugiar, all he did was he made a stone wall in front of them with alchemy.
Yeah.
And Al pointed at it. He's like, oh no, it's a stone wall.
Oh man, I can't get past this, man.
Everyone's literally pissing themselves. They don't know what to do. They're like slitting their wrists, tearing their hair out. And then big boy Chad Ed like comes walking in.
Sigma male Ed.
Yeah, Sigma male Ed comes walking in with his chest puffed out. And he cracks his fingers. And he's like, don't worry, I know what to do. And he just opens a hole in the wall.
Yeah,
that's what he does. He just opens a hole in the wall.
Yeah, and then cannon fire, right?
Yeah, and then it turns out Mugiar had a cannon ready.
Yeah,
he shoots it at him. Ed dodges it, and then Mugiar's like, "Ha, I'm better."
That's what Mugiar said.
Yeah, that's what he said. He just like coughed, and it's like, haha, I'm on a whole other level, right? And then he transmutes the wall as Mugiwara's about to shoot them. He fixes it, and then the impact, because like the wall explodes, it blows Mugiwara back, and then Ed walks to the broken wall, and he said, I told you, I'm on a whole other level. And I was just watching that scene. I was like, Ed, you fixed the wall. It's not that impressive.
No. To be fair, though, judging by the reactions of the other characters, fixing and breaking down a wall, it seems to be like the best thing you could ever do. It seems to be like the most impressive form of alchemy ever.
That's true.
Hey, at least there's like consistency in how stupid it is.
It was. Oh, but overall, this episode's okay. This
like 7 out of 10. Yeah,
7 out of 10. Like, okay, that scene is really bad. It's like concentrated badness, but there was still good stuff in the rest of the episode that we liked.
Yeah. I also found those that sequence, while it was bad,
it was very fun.
Yeah, it was very entertaining at least.
Yeah, you howled with laughter on 3 separate occasions while watching that whole sequence.
It was like a literal like Simpsons joke, like just unraveling further and further.
Like just constant in a classic Simpsons episode, there's just constant jokes that build on the next, and this is what that was like. It was like anti-Simpsons.
Yeah,
all right. That's pretty much all we gotta say.
Yeah. Hope you enjoyed that part. Hope you found it funny. If nothing else, goodbye.